I have an intriguing point that I would like to add to our continuing discussion of subspace. Remote viewing evidence argues forcefully that the human subspace aspect focuses its awareness of the physical universe through the 5 sensory channels of the human nervous system: hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell. And it appears that the output strength of these 5 sensory channels with regard to physical consciousness is strong relative to the ability of a person to perceive direct subspace or extra-dimensional information. That is, it is easier by far for a human to perceive information originating from the 5 senses than it is for a person to perceive subspace information. In short, the eyes beat intuition every time. Moreover, the nature of the physical subspace interface is not well understood. Science will eventually understand this interface as research continues in the years and decades that follow, and indeed, researchers such as Hameroff and Penrose and others are already exploring the areas of inquiry that may soon allow us to understand the nature of this interface on the molecular level. But we nonetheless know now some of the characteristics of this interface. On the level of perception, the physical subspace interface appears to act as a low bandwidth connector between physical and subspace consciousness. Now, some may argue that the interface is more like a juggernaut than a helpful connection. And again, this is due to the low bandwidth characteristic of the interface. By low bandwidth, it is meant that the interface appears capable of transferring only small amounts of information in a given time, when compared with what is possible using the 5 physical senses. To explain, consider that information sent to the brain from either the physical subspace interface or the 5 senses arrives as signals, with the word used analogously in the sense of a radio signal or any other constant flow of coded information that requires translation upon reception. There are 2 issues relating to signals that are relevant here: amplitude versus quantity. Now, experientially, remote viewers typically report that signals coming from the 5 physical senses feel like they are being received by physical consciousness, that is, the brain, at much higher levels of amplitude than those coming through the physical subspace interface. Again, these are the subjective feelings of the remote viewers. It is unknown at this time whether amplitude is really the issue or whether the relative disparity in the signal strength is due to something else, such as the overall quantity of information. For example, if one tunes into a radio station with a radio receiver, the signal can be weak or strong depending on the distance between the receiver and the transmitter, as well as the power of the transmitter. But the quantity of information received, defined in terms of number and variation of frequencies in the signal, is the same regardless of the strength of the signal. For the quantity of information to matter, the signal would have to be interrupted or suspended through some means. Now, with regard to remote viewing, it is unknown whether the information that is received through the physical subspace interface is lacking in amplitude, that is signal strength, or information quantity, or perhaps both amplitude and quantity. It is likely that both amplitude and quantity differentials would be experienced similarly by remote viewers, and so they would not be able to tell the difference between the 2. These are scientific puzzles, and we will pursue them. Meanwhile, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.